Imagine your ex-husband moving in with your bleach blonde, half-naked neighbor who takes every chance she gets to dig at you. I know, right? What the hell? That is just one of the many situations that presents itself in the life of fictional character Susan Mayer from Desperate Housewives. Though I like Susan, her life and even herself as a person at times can really be head spinning as a viewer. Susan overall stinks. She's whiny and has no sense of self-preservation or resilience and keeps falling into the same old situations. But I feel like there is something to learn from the character. So here are all the things that I feel we can learn from the terrible actions of Susan Mayer. What is up, guys? It is Alyssa, After Dark, and we are back with another video. And this one is regarding the character Susan Mayer from Desperate Housewives. She is one of the main characters, and if I'm not mistaken, I think she's the first character we're kind of introduced to on the show. Her life is just a mess. She goes through a really crazy divorce. She only has one child. They kind of burn down this lady's house. It's a whole thing. But I'm not going to give you a rundown of the show. I am here for those of us who already have watched the show and kind of understand where I'm coming from with my perspective on Susan. I'm here to point out some lessons within some of her flaws as a character. Lesson 1. Your children are not your friends or therapists. That's just my take. And Susan, even though she's fictional, she really, really solidified that for me. The friends part, sure, that can be debatable. I think after a certain age, you can definitely be like friends with your kids. Of course, that takes like a lot of like proper care throughout their childhood and you bringing them up and like, giving them space to grow into themselves and like respecting them and boundaries and all that. But while you're kind of doing all those things, you can show them love and like be a safe space for them, but I also think it's also important for them to understand that you're kind of a place for guidance as well, and that's also going to take you disciplining them. It's going to take them having consequences and punishments. So with that being said, from episode 1, we get a major look into Susan's codependent relationship with her daughter and with everyone, if we're being honest. But her daughter, Julie Mayer, is the one picking up her mother while she's down, helping her try to establish a romantic relationship with her new neighbor, and even discussing wanting to have sexual relations with him with her daughter. Like, that was definitely a little too much for me. I don't know, maybe I'm just a prude, but like, though the show never really goes into detail or sheds light on how Julie feels about this, you can see in certain moments she is like stressed and way too mature for her age, in the sense that she doesn't have an emotional holding place for her mother. It makes you wonder how Julie survived childhood and how Susan survived raising a child. But eventually, we meet Susan's mother and it all kind of comes into full view. And, in true unhealed parent fashion, she reprimands Julie as a child, as if, she hadn't put her teenage daughter into, adult business and positions. And then once, Julie turns around and she's like, girl, what are you doing? Or once Julie turns around and starts doing things and like messing up and doing things that she is likely going to do, and may I argue she should do at her age, all of a sudden Susan wants to put her foot down and she doesn't even do it right. Like, Susan Myers is the least scary person like ever in TV history, in my opinion, regardless of her burning a house down, like, and that's a lot. That says a lot. I think this is gonna be like brutal, but then again, she's fictional, so who cares? Like, Susan is just she was not strong enough you know, not even strong enough to like pull herself together for her daughter. So her daughter had to learn to be strong for her. It's important to recognize that children should not be burdened with the role of being their parents' therapist or even their parents' parent. While it's healthy for families to like communicate openly and like support each other emotionally, there are boundaries that should be respected to ensure the well-being of both the parents and the child. And Susan just said, "Fuck them shit." What is a boundary to Susan Mayers? To Susan Mayer. I don't know why I keep adding the S, but if you ever tried to explain that to her, I'm sure she would not understand and probably go ahead and keep crossing your boundaries. Anyway, you know, parents play a crucial role in providing guidance, love, and support for their kids. However, like relying on your kid for emotional support beyond their capacity can place undue stress and pressure on them, potentially impacting their own emotional development and well-being. I think one thing that I like about kind of looking back on these shows is that I can compare it to how we are as a society today and where we're headed. And you know, and I'm very proud of the fact that like many of us, especially Gen Z, we're going to put our foot down when it comes to behaviors like this, you know, even from our parents. So like if Susan were my mother, I probably, you know, like given how codependency works and stuff, like, because I am a codependent myself, you know, obviously you're raised to be one, but then if I were to kind of follow somewhat of the same steps of coming out of codependency like I have within my own personal life, if I were Susan's daughter, Susan would the way I would be so rude to her, because she just needs a reality check. Like, what are we doing? And my dad too, because we'll talk about that in a different video. Okay, back to the lesson. Lesson number 2 is sometimes you should wait before you take action. Okay, in the show, Susan was very jumpy in the sense that she never really sat on information or a situation that she may have encountered. Like, she just immediately jumped from one rumor, lie, or conclusion to the next. And like, Susan never disappointed in acting before thinking or consulting with anyone, and ultimately it was painful to watch things backfire on her. It was just a lot. It's like watching someone just constantly run into a brick wall, and it's like somehow they're just not learning from it. They're not rerouting. They're not saying, why am I doing this? Like, she was just like, I'm gonna go run into this brick wall, or I'm gonna go jump off this bridge because such and such said this, or I just saw such and such do this. And she doesn't have enough information on what's going on, and she's just like, it's so annoying. And I feel like the writers just played into that way too many times, you know, within the show. And after a while, just within like going into season 2, I was just over it. I was like, please have her learn from something. Golly, you know? And like, not only that, but just like, why does this lady, she just like, does she have like no tethering to just like like taking in information, at least sitting with it or trying to gain more information? It's like, she just hears something and she'll run and like go break up with her man, or go like yell at her daughter, or like it's just, or go burn down a house. Like, what? Susan. Anyway, lesson 3: set boundaries or remove yourself from people who seek to keep you down. Okay, one thing I despise about Susan is that she lacked boundaries with not just those who loved her the most, but with those who wished her nothing but the worst. Those who broke her over and over again, like her ex-husband or her nasty neighbor Edie Britt. Okay, Edie Britt is another thing coming. But you know what? I can't hate on Edie too much, because at least Edie stood on something. You know, Susan just crumbled. And it's like, after a while, I need her to get a backbone. I need her to stand up. Susan seems to always give them the chance to like come around and emotionally drive her up a wall or leave her emotionally wrecked by their actions or words. And as much as I swear I do like Susan, I would reel on the other side of the TV and like beg her to get a backbone, which kind of leads me to my next point, which is point number 4. Pull yourself together. Pull yourself together. Okay, Susan Mayer, sorry, I don't know why I keep adding an S. Susan Mayer is the queen of breaking down. Okay, never fully pulling herself back together and learning from what she's experienced. Like I've said in my previous points, you know, Susan just seems to learn nothing and comes to fall for the traps that she seems to subconsciously like set up for herself. And then she falls apart once again. Like, she never once made a plan. She never once gave herself time to heal. She was just jumping in everyone's business and was just messing up her own. It was a lot. My last lesson is that if you dislike or hate Susan Mayer, it's because she was written by a man. I know my criticisms may seem too deep for a 2004 show about lonely wives, and I know and understand perfectly that Susan is terrible for our entertainment, okay? I know. But I do love the show because, of course, it has great and pretty juicy plots within a community of men and women who delight in their vices, no matter the expense. And I love watching and criticizing because I'd like to reflect on where we've come from, especially as women in the entertainment industry and as society. And Susan Mayer is definitely proof that we've gone further, okay? And that there are clearly more female fictional characters that are actually written by women. You know, not to say that a man couldn't write a good female character, but like historically, especially in like the early 2000s movies and shows, these women are like dodo birds. I don't know. I'm sorry. I know y'all might call me out in the comment section for that one, but that's completely fine if you do. So these are all the lessons I think we can learn from Susan. If you guys think I missed anything, let me know down in the comments. If you guys even want me to break down some of the other characters on the show, please let me know. I need any excuse to watch Desperate Housewives again. Thank you for listening. This video was really fun to make. Honestly, I kind of just like dragging her for a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Thank you for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Bye.